Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at LittleAfrica BronxNews' Meet the Candidate video interview series, where we are interviewing candidates for City Council in the Bronx, as well as Bronx Borough President, Mayor, Comptroller, and Public Advocate. Today, our special guest is current Assemblywoman Nathalia Fernandez, who is running for Bronx Borough President. Assemblywoman, we're happy to have you join us today. Um, there's just so much to talk about when it comes to your public service and working for the governor, as well as working for a current council member. So let me just say welcome, and please tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you so much, Mona, for having me here, creating this space so people can get to know me a little better. But yes, I am Nathalia Fernandez. I'm currently the Assembly member for the 80th Assembly District. And to tell you about myself is what you see is what you get. That's really the best way to bring it to people. I consider myself a very compassionate person, a very happy and optimistic person. That's one thing I get told, you have a very positive energy. And that is something that I try to instill in myself every day, think of the positive and the opportunities that the day will have and can have. So I would say that I am one that, trying to think of what I want to say. But I'm someone that I look to inspire people, and I really try to uplift those around me with the knowledge that I may know, with the opportunities that I know about, and even just maybe a story of how someone else has been able to overcome. But I love this borough. I love my community. I love what I do for the fact that I am helping lives, that I'm able to change narratives, change perspectives in the everyday work that we do, when it's addressing the small things to the big things, the maybe not important things, but then the very important things. So I am one that I welcome everyone to come to my door, come to my office, and share with me.
Well, thank you for being so open, and for your door always being open for the community. So, you're an Assembly member now. Can you share with our viewers who are not as familiar with you and from your Assembly district, how did you end up becoming an Assemblywoman, and your journey, your public service journey? How did you get started? Because I understand you also at one point worked for Governor Cuomo. So if you could share with our viewers that journey of yours to where you are today, as well as to why you are now running for Bronx Borough President.
Absolutely. Well, I represent the 80th district. That's in the Northeast Bronx, that has Pelham Parkway, Morris Park, Allerton, Mosholu Parkway, and Norwood. And this is the exact neighborhood that my family migrated to from their countries. My father came from Cuba. My mother came from Colombia. And almost like meant to be, from one end, Mosholu Parkway, where my mother was, and Pelham Park, where my father was, their child now represents that district. But yes, for a long time, me and my family have always been in the attitude of supporting each other and supporting our other family members, the neighbors in need. I won't say that we were politically involved, because we weren't, but we were aware of how politics has shaped our lives. Becoming an Assemblywoman was something I never imagined, not something I never really had in my journal, like I want to be this when I grow up. It was something that just came about, I feel, at the right time, and I was the right person to do it at that time. I got involved in 2012 in local government, volunteering for campaigns soon after college. I graduated with a public degree. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in public relations from Hofstra University. So utilizing my skills there, I wanted to bring it to my community. How can I help uplift your voice? How can I bring attention to your matter, to your issue, to your product, to something? And in conversation, within my father's office, and my father still has his business here, I heard somebody was running for office. One of their friends um, who they know in the business. His name is Mark Jonine. But understanding that he was representing our neighborhood, or he wanted to represent our neighborhood, and he had these ideas, I was motivated. I'm like, yes, we need to make sure that our parks are getting cleaned up better. We need to make sure that our constituents have outlets of resources, have people that can help them connect to these resources, making sure that they have fair access to them. And I was inspired to help. So I started volunteering in 2012 on that campaign. It was a successful campaign and a historic one in its own right. He became the first Albanian American to serve in New York State. And soon enough, I was hired for the district office to be a community liaison. And as a community liaison, I was every day on the ground, on the phones, with my community, hearing them out for the issues and what are the problems and what are the hopes and what are the visions. And literally bringing that to my principal to see how we can make it happen. Um, and that stuck with me. The opportunity to, really connect with our neighbors and find solutions was something that I enjoyed. Like I'm a busybody, so I love to plan, I love to organize, I love to, make real results. So when I saw that I was able to do that by simple things, just picking up the phone and connecting someone to an agency, or sending an email again to somebody that may want to be interested in something, I realized the power of building these coalitions just by outreach, just by trying. And that's a message I've kept with me um, forever since now. And I tell it to young girls and anybody, like, you just got to try. Don't feel that, you can't do nothing, or your efforts will be ignored, or they'll be lost. It will take you somewhere. It'll take you to that next step to make sure that you can get to your ultimate goal. And soon enough, my due diligence and my hard work promoted me to be chief of staff to that assembly office. And that's where I really got a sense of the legislative work and understanding the impact of it and how to get it done. And working with other senators and other assembly members, eventually the governor's office too. And come late 2016, right before 2017, that's when the governor's office presented me with an opportunity. We need a Bronx representative. You are pretty good. Would you like to apply? And I'm like, why, thank you. I didn't realize you saw what I was doing. But I applied and I got the position, and it was honestly the highlight of my career at the time, that I am now working for the executive, the highest level in New York State, and really working for, representing, speaking for the borough that I love, the borough that is my home, which is the Bronx. And in that year, I learned so much, obviously, about how the executive connects with the legislature and the council members, and how to balance city and state issues, and again, come to solutions together for the sake of the community and our constituency. And in that time, my predecessor was running for city council. So in that conversation, he might win city council, somebody needs to run for the seat. My community actually reached out to me. A lot of my community leaders and friends and neighbors were like, we know that there's going to be, an open seat, and we think you should run. And I'm like, you guys are crazy. Like, no, I can't do that. I'm fine where I am. I like being behind the scenes. I like setting things up so we can get, real answers and progress and all of that. But as the election went on and he ended up winning, it was honestly like late in November that I'm like, you know what? I should do this. I need to do this. I don't want somebody that may just be placed in there. I don't want somebody that doesn't know the issues like me, because even though I worked for the whole Bronx under the governor, my heart stayed in the 80th. I always went back to it to check in, to make sure that the office was functioning well without me. Like, I'm that type of busybody that I have to check in on everyone. So knowing that I had the support there by my friends, by my colleagues, by some, and current colleagues, I decided to do it. I'm like, I know how to do this job. The 80th Assembly District is my home. I've been basically running it as chief of staff before, and now with my greater knowledge, I know how to get things done. So I ran for office in the special election in 2018, unanimously voted by the county committee of the 80th Assembly District, and I became the nominee. And I've been serving since, unopposed in the last two primaries. So it's been an extreme honor, such a pleasure to be that voice and that representation for my neighborhood, for so many within the neighborhood, not just, young girls like me and other women like me, but everybody, people who felt that it didn't matter if they spoke up, knowing that someone is there to listen like me, they felt comfortable doing so. So now in this time where we are in such a pivotal moment for change in the Bronx, I'm stepping up again because I feel that I can be that great representative and that voice for the borough that they need. We need to be in a place where we're thinking in new and different ways, where we're taking bold actions to really try to address the issues that have been laid out in front of us right now and that have been an issue long before COVID. And I feel that I can do it. Like I said, I got the energy, I have the will, I know there's a way, and I want to make this happen for the Bronx. I believe in getting a fairer and stronger borough against all the other boroughs. Too long we've been told we're the stepchild, or knowing that we are the poorest borough. We don't have to be anymore. We have great leaders here. We have a beautiful community that is strong, that is resilient, that can be a part of the change that New York City is going towards. I want it to work for all of us. I want our children to have every opportunity. Too many times I've seen how schools differ from one zip code to another. I've seen how neighborhoods differ based on historic red lines, that still linger.
Yes.
The crime and the community safety, has been a constant issue. And really, I want to bring everybody to the table with me. As women, we say we need to bring our chair to the table. We should have a seat at the table too. And that's absolutely true. I truly believe that, for every decision that's made, thank you, Ruth, women need to be in that room too. But when I'm there for you. I'm there for my neighbors. I'm there for my family, my community, my constituency. And now that we have a chance to bring new leadership to the Bronx, it can be your leadership. And I'm your voice to do that.
Indeed. Yeah, no, you have certainly, dedicated your life to serving not just the 80th, but even under Governor Cuomo, serving the people of the Bronx. Right now, Nathalia, there's just so much going on because a year ago, we would never have imagined that we'd be dealing with a global pandemic. COVID-19 has ravaged the Bronx. It's ravaged the city, but the Bronx, our communities in the Bronx have been the hardest hit in the city. And now with the upcoming elections, both city council, borough-wide, and citywide offices, it's really important for Bronxites and for New Yorkers to know, what the plan is for recovering from this COVID-19 pandemic. And I follow you on social media. I see the work you've been doing out in the community. And my question to you is, if elected Bronx Borough President, what is your plan, your COVID-19 recovery plan for the Bronx? Many of our families are suffering because they're unemployed. They can't pay their rent. I understand that the Assembly, or rather the legislature and the governor, putting forth an eviction moratorium. I'd like you to talk a little bit more about that. But families are struggling. So if elected borough president, what is your COVID-19 recovery plan? How are you going to address our housing crisis, our small businesses that have really struggled? Many have closed. What is your plan for us to bring us out of this pandemic?
Thank you for that question. Well, in regards to housing on the state level, where I am now, we just started session this week or last week. We know we have a lot to do, and it's been very difficult because the state and the city literally don't have the resources to do that. And by resources, it's money. Where we've been waiting for our federal partners and the president really to help relieve us. We need $15 billion, and before that we were short $6 billion in the state budget that affected the city budget, that affects everything that, we need to live and thrive. So the argument has been to utilize the plans that we have right now. And since last year, since the first budget deficit, actually 2 years ago, members in the assembly, including myself, have been very supportive of revenue builders. And I believe right now that we have to consider still these revenue builders, even though we may get some money from the federal government. So yeah, we'll get maybe 10, $50 million, but that's just going to be a one-time payout. We got to sustain this stuff later. So we need to have revenue builders, as in legalizing marijuana. That's going to give us, I believe, 500 billion. Legalizing sports betting, because no matter what, people love sports, they're going to bet. And right now, all this money is leaving New York and is going outside, and we can keep it here and help each other here. Stock transfer tax. Buying stocks is not cheap. It's not easy. So those that are already doing it, you're transferring here and there, you can afford to put a little tax and pay a little tax with that transfer. That'll give us another couple $2 billion. But taxing the rich has been the argument this whole time, because we have New Yorkers here that make over billions of dollars a year and have only gotten richer through this pandemic. Jeff Bezos. So it's almost unconscionable to think that we can't bother them, leave them alone, we'll continue to suffer and figure it out. No, every New Yorker has stepped up right now. Every New Yorker has done what they can to help themselves survive, or their friend or their neighbor. And I believe that the rich in this state can do that. They can sacrifice a few extra dollars, on their annual income tax to go towards this state and really fund those that have been hurt, including the homeowners, the renters, the excluded workers, those that are undocumented that cannot apply for any of these state or federal grants. We need to do more to help them. So in the state, in my power right now, I look forward to passing that and helping this city and the state generate more money to do so. But once we get there, and maybe even now with some of the stimulus, we are going to decipher it in the next couple of weeks to see how we can create more programs for the state. But property owners and tenants has been a huge priority. Knowing that people can't pay rent since losing jobs, since being furloughed, getting even hours cut, being able to stay in your homes has been an absolute priority. So I'm proud of the state and the leadership of our Speaker Carl Hastie for allowing us to bring this issue forward and fight it till the end, and extending the eviction moratorium. We created rent subsidy programs for tenants to apply and basically give the paycheck or give a subsidy to your landlord who does need the money. There's been the conversation, cancel rent. And while, yes, we want to cancel it because we know we can't pay for it, there are still bills that need to be paid and that are still being asked for. Early on in the pandemic, I introduced a piece of legislation that would freeze all payments, including those for tenants and those for homeowners and those for property owners. So meaning it would freeze your rent, it would freeze your mortgage, it would freeze your water bills, your sewer bills, your utilities. These are things that I feel have kind of been lost in the conversation early on. Now we know, but creating programs that will help pay for this will help keep people staying homes. And we need to expand the eviction moratorium. Right now, we expanded it till May. What happens after May? Mm-hmm. There's a bill right now that extends it for a year after the pandemic's lifted, after we're out of the pandemic state that we are in. And I think that's really important, because no matter what, there's going to be a lot of families that will still get asked by their landlord, we need you to pay this now, that will be tested, that will be probably brought to court. And we just need to relieve that stress, that struggle. We know we don't want people out of court. We know we want to keep people's homes. And it does go to the fact that the property owner needs to be able to keep their property, so then we all keep our home. So there's a lot of work to be done with that. But I'm a huge supporter of making sure that these things happen, extending the eviction moratorium and creating these programs that can help rents and bills be paid. In addition, the conversation of housing is just, it's a big umbrella. So not only are we trying to keep people in their homes right now, but we need to still provide homes for the future. We know that affordable housing is needed in a lot of areas. And the discussion of what is affordable is another issue to tackle, because right now we can say, oh, this is affordable according to the market rate. Well, what is the market rate? Oh, an apartment, 1 bedroom is $2,000. That doesn't seem right. Whose rate is that? So the AMI, the average median income, deciphers what is the market rate. What's the average that a New Yorker can pay? The problem is that the New York City AMI includes Westchester County. So Westchester County is filled with high income, residents that their average, is good for them, but it's not good for us. So this comes with teamwork now, and I'm going to rely, and I will talk to my members in Congress and my federal representatives, our senators, to really consider changing the AMI, because it's something in their power that they can do, that it either is solely New York City or even break it down by borough, because still the Bronx is a low income borough. And even if the average is made out just by New York City, it still won't be good enough for us.
No, you raised quite a few important points there, especially regarding the AMI. We should not be lumped in with Westchester. And, that absolutely needs to be needs to be changed, and that is something that the legislature can do. And if it could be broken down by borough, even better, because you know the the quotas or the income for Manhattanites and Bronxites is vastly different. So that's that's a very important point to make. The other thing that I just want to touch on, excuse me, is when it comes to the eviction moratorium. In the Bronx, we have a lot of small homeowner landlords who have perhaps a house, that is a 2-family or 3-family house, and they rent out, the other floors to tenants, and they are suffering too with, the fact that, their tenants understandably are unable to pay the rent, but the small landlord, the homeowner, still has to pay their mortgage. And, I hope more is going to be done to help those homeowners who are also landlords. We cannot forget that we do have small landlords who are renting out apartments in their homes, and they need to be factored into this whole conversation. And continuing on with housing, council member, public advocate now, Jamani Williams, and just in general, the Public Advocate's Office every year comes out with this worst landlords list. And for all of us here in New York City, we all know who the worst landlord is in New York City, and that's NYCHA. It's like NYCHA is undefeated as the worst landlord. And every single year, it's now January, we hear about no heat, lack of hot water. We hear countless stories, and we see countless stories about dilapidated apartments, mold, elevators not working. And most recently, unfortunately, an elderly woman passed away because she got hurt coming down the stairs because the elevator in her NYCHA building wasn't working, and she made more than 17 calls to NYCHA. So that being said, my question to you is, what would you do, or what have you already done in your current role as an assembly member, in your previous role working as a community liaison for another assembly member in the past, and working under Governor Cuomo? What would you do, and what have you done in the past to help and support these NYCHA residents? And as Bronx Borough President, what decisive action would you take to help NYCHA residents in the Bronx deal with all of these issues, because they're literally life and death issues?
Absolutely. NYCHA, if it's not already, it should be one of the top concerns of Bronx residents. 1 in 15 Bronx residents lives in a NYCHA development. So this affects a lot of us. And the despair, the destruction that we see in these buildings is deplorable. It's really embarrassing too, as a city, the richest city in the world, that we have living facilities like this that are in such terrible condition. And I'm proud of our support and work in the state assembly, but it's always been not enough. And this is something that our colleagues have, understood, that we need billions of dollars to really help renovate, retrofit our NYCHA developments, bring them back to the conditions that they need to be, remove the lead paint that's already there, fix the boilers. It's going to require billions of dollars. So in my time in the assembly, I've helped pass 1.2 billion to NYCHA repairs, and that's come back to my district in like $1 million. So with the $1 million, that is a lot of work, or that's a lot of, oh, I guess the headphones are not good. I wanted to hear you better. But yeah, that's come back in the form to the district of $1 million per development. So we've had to really spread out and squeeze that to either help renovate the senior center. And I know my senior centers in Parkside Houses, that's been a project that was finally being completed. So we're very happy about that. But also the roofing, the leaks, the boilers, it's just not enough. 1 million per development, it's not enough. So again, our federal partners, we need them to step up, because the city and the state have been trying to handle this on their own for the last couple of years. And especially after this pandemic, I don't think we'll be able to make enough or give enough to the budgets to help to really fix the problems. As a borough president, I will continue the advocacy to my partners. I'll go to Washington if I have to testify in these hearings, to really bring to light examples, tenants, that are living in this, so they can hear the hurt and the pain that we're going through of how these living conditions are treating us. And not just for general health, but even mental health. It really does come full circle in many ways. But one thing that borough president can do is to bring attention to the atrocities that the administration has allowed to happen. Lead has been an argument forever. As long as I've, been alive to realize and notice, oh my God, lead is dangerous. We still have apartments now that are lead painted, lead infected. Children are still coming up positive with lead poisoning. We should not be in that position, and people should be going to jail for the fact that it's been going on this long. Children can die, families can die. And that accountability needs to be on the forefront of what the borough president can do. You are literally allowing my people to die in their homes. Why are you not getting in trouble for this?
No, you're absolutely right on that. And there needs to be more accountability, because every year we hear about lead poisonings, the high levels of lead, and nothing changes. And
It's held accountable.
yeah, nobody seems to be held accountable, and it's almost become the norm. Continuing on with speaking about some of the healthcare challenges that NYCHA residents face, but right now also in general with the COVID-19 pandemic, we have a vaccine, but there's been a lot of confusion about rollout of the vaccine. Our communities in the Bronx have been the hardest hit, because Bronxites, many Bronxites are essential workers, and nobody fully understands, who is eligible right now for the vaccine, when, where can they get the vaccine, and other information such as, is the vaccine available to children as well? And I know that, quite a few people have been saying that we need more sites in the Bronx when it comes to, when it comes to getting Bronxites vaccinated, where they can go. So is there any information that you can share with our viewers about how this is supposed to work, and who can get it, and where can they get it, and what are you going to also do as Bronx Borough President to ensure that every Bronxite is vaccinated?
That has been on my radar and top of my list since we started talking about the vaccine being available, because yes, access to the vaccine is highly important to every Bronx resident. Right now, the distribution sites I see are being placed in current medical facilities, hospitals, clinics, and things like that. But like in my area right now, if you literally look at the map for what the city put out of where the vaccines are, everything west of the Bronx River Parkway is full with dots, filled with dots. But everything in the Northeast Bronx, where I represent now, we have maybe 4 locations. So there's certainly disparities right now in accessibility because the North Bronx doesn't have that many clinics like that, in the neighborhood. So we need to think outside the box. We need to now partner up with our community to help provide access to it. Early on, I put a notice out. I gave it to the mayor and the governor. I was like, I know locations. You want big space because we want thousands of people at a time to come. I know the big spaces. And I put a list. It's on my social media. You can find it now. That included Yankee Stadium. That included our catering halls. That included our high schools. And, I understand there might be some issues with city-owned properties and state-owned properties and private properties. And I even promoted the idea, okay, if we're going to go into private properties, you're going to bring your machinery, you're going to bring here, you're going to be using the electricity. Are you going to pay for the electricity that you're going to use? Adding an assistance to the business owner, the property owner. So, they're getting something out of allowing their space to be used when it has been used in the last year. Mm-hmm. The thought process, though, is that they want to place vaccines in high infected areas, which I understand, and that's smart, but that doesn't mean you should be ignoring the not so high infected areas, because don't you think that if you are giving vaccines here, it will keep that area not high in infection, So I'm pushing on it, really trying to find every location possible, working with the property owner, the business owner, whoever, to see if they can allow access and if we can make this a pop-up vaccine site. One thing that we do know is that New York City didn't receive enough vaccines from the federal government. We had maybe 250,000, 250,000 to New York City, and it ran out already. And there needs to be a better process too, because just today I got a few constituents calling me asking, okay, I got my first dosage. It took me forever to get an appointment. And that's one problem too, that the hospitals, at least in my area, their appointments are weeks away from now. And there shouldn't be these long wait times to get appointments. And there should be very clear plans. Okay, you got your shot today. You're going to get a call this day, and you're going to come to maybe a different location or a different part of the Bronx. Like, there needs to be clear separation as who's getting the first dosage and who's getting the second dosage. But utilizing our spaces, that are not city owned, even privately owned, and creating that partnership, I think is vitally important to making that accessibility possible for many Bronxites. And one thing too, our senior buildings, going back to our niches, we have senior developments. There are some buildings that are entirely a senior population. We know that's a very vulnerable population of people. Why are we not having teams going one day, door to door, setting it up, stay home today, or we know a lot of people are home, and get these vaccines out? Like, these are projects that we can implement with the help of our community members to help organize a mass distribution, building by building even. So those are some ideas I have.
No, I mean, and that's what we need, clarification on. And it's not helpful if people are able to get the first dose, but they cannot get an appointment to get the second dose. So
yeah, there's a time frame. It wears off, Yeah. So if you don't get it within that time frame, you're gonna have to do both again.
Yeah, no, you're precisely right. So, with everything going on, with COVID-19 pandemic, one of the other big issues that Bronx families have been dealing with is the schools, with how the Mayor de Blasio and Chancellor Carranza have been managing the schools since the pandemic started. And, we fast forward, to September, and there was a delay in the schools opening. Then there was a lot of confusion on when schools will be closed, if there's, a case in the school. And now, even today, middle schools and high schools are still remote, but elementary schools are open. What are your thoughts on how the mayor and the chancellor have managed the schools since this pandemic hit? And as Bronx Borough President, how would you advocate and fight for Bronx students and students citywide when it comes to ensuring that every child gets a high quality education, when it comes to our schools being well funded and resourced the way they need to be? Um, how would you address these issues?
Well, for when things first hit, I really can't criticize many because it was, a big change for all of us. But by the end of the school year, June, we were fully remote. Or actually, we were earlier than that. And we understood that this might continue till the school year started in September. And the fact that we were not prepared in September is a huge problem. We had 3 months when, teachers were not teaching, children were not having to report to online classes. We had time to really figure this out. We had time to assess who still needs tablets, because from March to June 2020, we were still figuring out then. Children were still getting some tablets, but the fact that we had still an outstanding number come September is ridiculous. So I've been vocal with the current borough president, with current colleagues, and we called out the mayor a few months ago. What is the holdup? It really is unexplainable. That children need these services, that they need this equipment. We should be doing everything possible to contacting them, delivering it to them, or having them make sure that they pick it up, something to get these children the proper resources that they need. And on top of that, a lot of these tablets too didn't have Wi-Fi. So we know this, we know that we have areas where some families, some communities can't afford Wi-Fi or just don't have it in their homes. So we should have been smart, from the summer, figuring out who else needs it, giving tablets and products with Wi-Fi in there. But then that turned to the greater issue that Wi-Fi is a necessity now. It's no longer a luxury. And we've seen how it's become the one resource to tie us into the world when we can't be a part of the world, stuck in our homes. So I'm supportive of and, ready to advocate with the upcoming mayor, whoever it may be, that we need to get free Wi-Fi in our communities. And if not through the city, through public-private partnerships, because there are individuals that can help and do this for our neighborhoods, whether businesses here in our business hubs or even someone in their home. I have someone in my neighborhood now that has purchased a node, which is a satellite, in their home. And through agreement with neighboring buildings and property owners, they can put modems on their buildings and it'll generate free Wi-Fi for that whole block. So these are things that we can work with our community on to help our community.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. And they did have the entire summer, and September came and they still weren't prepared. And when it comes to, internet access, to digital access, with a lot of our students, they didn't have Chromebooks. And then the ones that did get Chromebooks didn't have internet access. And, that's not even touching on our homeless families, our homeless students. There simply has not been enough support. And you're 100% right in saying that internet and digital access now has become a necessity, because how do you get anything done without access to the internet? And right now, how can any child receive access to a basic education without internet access? So
internet access transcends to not just for our children, but for adults. Telehealth has become certainly a way of the future. Our seniors have relied a lot on telehealth and even just social interaction. That's become a big problem with our seniors in this pandemic, being forced in their homes to stay in their homes. Some seniors don't even have house phones. So it really does speak volumes that there are people that are isolated, alone, and have no way of communicating, speaking, reaching out for help. So identifying, those seniors in these populations and providing them with this assistance will literally keep them alive.
No, that is true. And I hope that our elected officials are going to push even harder for universal internet access,
Yeah.
especially for families with children. Um, I want to now segue into small businesses. Uh, I'm sure you're aware of the New York Times article that came out a few months ago, where we learned that, and also Comptroller Scott Stringer came out with a report, and many of us were not surprised, but it's still alarming, and that is the fact that less than 2% of Bronx businesses, um, you know, were eligible or received access to funding from the federal government to keep them afloat. They didn't, Bronx businesses did not receive the financial support, loans, grants, paycheck protection program, uh, less than 2%. And because of that, we have a lot of Bronx businesses that have closed. We have a lot of Bronx businesses that are struggling. And we all know that it's small businesses that drive the economy in general. But here in the Bronx, it's those small businesses that employ people from their community. And somewhere there's been a disconnect because the small businesses did not have the support that they needed to complete the paperwork and to go through the bureaucratic red tape. And because of that, the Bronx only received, less than 2% of, loans for small businesses. So my question to you is, as Bronx Borough President, how would you rectify that so that that does not happen again? And what do you see as the role of the Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation to support small businesses? Because somewhere somebody dropped the ball. And because of that, we're in the situation where we are.
It is a real problem, and this too is a high priority to getting the Bronx back on its feet. Our small businesses are our lifelines. This is how our people live. This is how they survive, thrive, all that. So bringing back the small business that we lost and reestablishing the jobs that came with it is really important, aside from growing new jobs. So we'll get to that in a second with the OEDC. But for the small businesses, I propose developing a task force made of experts within the business field who have passed in working for chambers of commerce and small business services, all that, and really who have an understanding of these applications. Because like you mentioned, our small businesses sometimes are the one business owner who's also, the boss and the accountant, and who's also everything. And he's responsible sometimes for his whole store, maybe has one or two other employees. So to have somebody else there that knows what they're doing, that can help them put the paperwork together and get it in time is really, really helpful. So I plan to have a small business task force that will be out there in the streets, contacting business owners and seeking, what do you need help with? Do you need me to help explain this paperwork? Let's do this together. Let's get it in on time. And that, I think, too, was something that overall I just feel is unfair. Like, we were told that the next PPP applications were due Monday. I don't know what Monday ago, but that notice came out like Thursday. So business owners had 4 days to get everything together again, to hand it in on time and hope that they get approved. I feel like, I don't know if it came from the federal government or not with this timeline, but that quick action is needed. So in the next time that, this becomes available, having a team to really help business owners get the work done, have better communication with their banks. So, the lending that comes quicker to them. In addition, with BOEDC, hoping, we are out of COVID in sometime soon, and we can get back to really trying to grow this borough economically. We have to utilize the people here. MWBEs, we have a lot of MWBE owners, minority and women owned businesses. I want to create a path for them to have partnerships with the city and the Bronx and this borough when it comes to growing economically. So the state, I believe, we increased it. We need to have a 30% MWBE contract rate. The Bronx should be 50%, maybe even more. We
Yes.
are such a diverse borough. We need to be a part of the job creation here, of the growth, and of its prosperity. BUEDC, I also would love to work with in helping projects come here that bring jobs. And the jobs that I look for and I speak of on this whole campaign is the green jobs. The Bronx is environmentally one of the worst boroughs. We have Asthma Alley there. We have polluted waterways. We're doing great with the Bronx River, though. It's in good condition, but this energy needs to stay to make sure that our borough survives the climate change crisis that we're going through. So as we look at new projects in the Bronx, I want them to partner with local businesses. I want them to hire locally. And if the job that is needed requires training, we'll train here locally. We can hire locally. But this training and job experience will carry on into the future and into the next project and into the next development that can come. And this will create a path to job security and success in the borough.
Now, a small business task force would really be great, because one of the things that has come up in conversations with small business owners, especially now with the COVID-19 pandemic, is, we all say every elected official, they have a community liaison in their office, but none of them have a small business liaison in their office. And this task force that you're speaking of, that you'll create as Bronx Borough President, is really sorely needed. It's something that we should have had a long time ago, because it would have helped so many businesses stay open since this pandemic hit. The last subject that I would like us to talk about is public safety. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but there has been a quite a spike in crime in the Bronx. We have rampant crime and so much gun violence right now. We have young people being shot. It's not even safe for them to be out on the basketball court. The just in general crime has gone up, not just in the Bronx, but throughout the city. And when it comes to police community relations, those relations are very tense, and they're afraid. So as Bronx Borough President, and even as the current Assemblywoman, what would you do, or what is your strategy to improve police community relations and to address the rampant crime and gun violence that's going on right now in our communities?
Good question. Well, the crime that's going on, undeniably, yes, it's a high spike and it's been rampant. And it's hard to pinpoint what is causing it. I do believe the pandemic has given a hand to it. And I say this because of a specific shooting response rally that I attended this summer. Father of two, young guy who was an inspirational guy, and well loved in his neighborhood, was shot and ended up dying over a key. Like the argument was a key that he didn't have it on him at the time that the person was looking for it, and out of anger he got shot. So I'm like, why is that the solution? I do believe that everybody is in a different mental state, a different place of comfort and what's the word I'm looking for? A different place of comfort and oh my god, yeah, comfort really. Because it happened to me once too, that I was in the store and my cart accidentally hit somebody, and without me realizing it, the person that I hit was having an episode. They were having a panic attack before I even got involved. So people are in this mental state already. They're already like at an edge. And for whatever situation is going on, anger and violence have tended to be the first response to go to. And it leads to another issue as well that I think should be part of the project and part of the mission in stopping this, is addressing the illegal guns that are in our neighborhoods. You know, like Senator Bailey and Senator Zelno have a bill right now that would hold the gun manufacturers accountable, whether you're in state, out of state, for allowing your gun to get here illegally. The gun manufacturers need to be more responsible as to where their guns are going and how they're getting there. And for the example too of, you know, gun safety, it was very unfortunate to hear the story of the little boy that accidentally, or I'm sorry, I don't know the boy, but the child that shot themselves in the home with their parents' gun. You know, we've tried to fix that issue. Last year in the state assembly and the legislature, we passed more gun reform laws. One of them was keeping a safe box, that you must have your pistol in a safe box in the home to prevent that. So I don't know the full details, and I'm not going to, you know, punish the parents or nothing, because I'm sure they're already devastated enough. But those are things that I've tried and I've supported to make sure that gun violence does stay at a low. But for the situation in our communities now, we need to track down how these illegal guns are getting in here. We need more community intervention programs. I do believe in that power that the community has in helping their community get through their problems. And we've seen the successes with the various organizations that we have here. In my district right now, we have SUV, Standing Up to Violence, which is made of members of the community, former, you know, felons, former gang members, convicted individuals that, you know, are now ready to help their community and stop the activity before it even gets there. So for victims of gun violence that come to Jacoby Hospital, we speak with them, get to know the situation, get to know the people involved, and then they literally go out into the community and speak with the community and try to address it before it elevates to, you know, the ultimate that we don't want, a gunshot. So I think certainly funding those and giving more power to the people to stop the activity is something we should explore. Recently in Brownsville, Brooklyn, and the program did stop. I think it was only there for a week or two, but it had no police in the neighborhood. They didn't address situations with police for, I think maybe just in like a certain vicinity, not the whole neighborhood. But as an experiment, they addressed not, you know, responding to police and responding to community organizations. And the crime rate was low for those 2 days. So thing to think about and how the power of people can be very helpful to the bigger issue. In addition to that, community forums, communication is key. Communication is key. Say it again, communication is key. And one thing that people really want from their leaders is transparency. You know, tell me what's going on, tell me what you're doing, and tell me what's the status of it. So as borough president, I plan to have town halls in each precinct, you know, trying to get more people that attend outside of the monthly precinct meetings, and really making this a thorough conversation with as many people as possible to address the discomforts they have with police. Because there are some people that, yes, we need police presence here, we need the help to keep safety and all that, which I agree, in some cases we do. But then there's some people that feel that police over-monitor, are overbearing, are quick to assume the worst of you. And these are things that officers need to hear from the community that they're trying to protect. So I want to open that avenue of communication. Maybe even let the communities lead some of these precinct meetings. You know, the build-a-blocks are great because they're very hyper-local and they speak about the issues there, but sometimes they're just more like a reporting session of what happened and not so much like what happened and what are we going to do about it.
No, in that is so true. That is true. And you know, we really, you know, I know every precinct has a precinct council, but we need to engage the young people. We need, you know, young people on those precinct councils, and we need young people on the community boards. You
Yes,
know, and you know,
yeah.
I think there needs to be a drive with all elected officials to engage the youth and get them on these precinct councils, get them on their local community boards.
But
Because
we can do more than just the electeds. And I say this not to pass the buck, because believe you me, I'm speaking of this to every young person that I meet. Like, you've got to get involved in your neighborhood conversations. Like, you know, you come to me complaining, and yes, I hear you and I want to help you, but it's not just me you got to convince. It's everybody else in these positions of power. So I went to, and this is just a great story. I love it because the school took an initiative to have these conversations within their curriculum to the students. It was a fifth grade class, and I was, guest there, and they came ready. Like, what do I do when I want more garbage cans in my park? What do I do to stop the noisy people, that play music at night or something? What do I do? So I'm like, you guys came prepared, okay? And the teacher had already explained to them what community boards are, and the different agencies that are involved with the city, and how we triage all the issues that we have. So in that conversation, I was telling the kids, I'm like, writing a letter is very powerful. You may think it doesn't go far, or after you send it disappears, but no, a letter documents something. So if anybody ever wants to question you, you have it on paper that you wrote it, you said it, and it was received. So after being received, what's their move? You put the ball in their court now. And the kids were excited, and it's great because I see a few of them now, and they're like, I tell my mom to go to the community board, and I'm like, good, keep telling them. So this engagement needs to happen sooner. I mean, I'm one of them. I didn't know what the hell a community board was. Like, I barely knew what the mayor of New York City did when I was younger. I just knew he was the mayor.
Yeah.
But having our young people understand what these positions do at an earlier age, I believe will get them involved, acting, engaging sooner than later. So then, we don't hear the complaints. What happened to my community? Where were you?
Yeah.
You could be here too.
Yeah, no, I mean, everyone needs to take responsibility, and we're all held, we should all be held accountable. So yeah, I do agree with you on that. With this Democratic primary happening, I think it's June 22nd, right? Yeah. So you know, the what a lot of New Yorkers and Bronxites are unaware of is this election is going to be completely different than previous elections, and that's because of ranked choice voting. And a lot of people are unaware of the fact that we're going to have a completely new way of voting for special elections and primary elections. It doesn't include the general election, but the Democratic primary as well as the special elections in District 15, which I think somewhat covers your current district, as well as District 11, is going to be a ranked choice voting election where voters can choose up to 5 candidates, in their order of preference from, 1 to 5. So my question to you, Assemblywoman Fernandez, is what are you doing to educate voters about this brand new way of voting that's going to be happening as early as March 23rd for the 2 special elections, District 11 and District 15. And that's also going to happen for the Democratic primary for city council, borough president, controller, mayor, public advocate. Um, are you doing anything? Will you be holding any workshops? Have you done any type of outreach or education on ranked choice voting so that Bronxites are not disenfranchised on election day because they were completely unaware that the voting system has completely changed?
Yes. Well, talking about it is one of the quickest ways to get the information known. And in every opportunity that I am in a room, a Zoom room or a public room, and I can share information, I mention it. Absolutely. I did vote for it when it was on the ballot a few years ago. And I believe in its potential and its real power to give value to every vote. I do plan to host informational sessions, and I've had conversations with some colleagues and candidates. And actually today I saw that the Bronx Democratic Party is holding a forum to educate about ranked choice voting. So I will be promoting that and sharing that information. I believe there was a presentation a few weeks ago that I shared out. So aside from myself hosting one, which will be probably first week in February, um, we will continue to teach and talk about it and try to get as many people as motivated as possible about it. Because the point is to really empower your vote and give value to it, and to have a candidate, be voted on their merits in however many ways to make it to the general ballot.
Now, indeed, and with the March 23rd special election literally around the corner, we have even less time than to the primary to start to educate Bronx voters. So, Assemblywoman Fernandez, thank you so very much for joining us and for letting our viewers and our community learn more about you and why you're running for Bronx Borough President, and your platform and your policies and how you're going to advocate for and serve the people of the Bronx. Could you please just let the viewers know your website so that they could go and find out, learn more about your campaign and about you?
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Ms. Mona, for the opportunity, for this time, this space, and for hearing me out and my visions for the borough. But they're not even just mine, they're my community, because I generate these ideas based on what I hear, what I've learned, what I've experienced. And I believe that these ideas and visions can come to real action and make the benefit that we're looking for. But yes, please follow me, everyone. Thank you so much for the time. I am on social media, all platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under @Fernandez4NY. So there's a number 4 in there. But for my Borough President platform, please check out my website at Fernandez2021.com. Fernandez is spelled FERNANDEZ 2021.com. And follow along. Join the team.
Okay, no, thank you. And at the end of the video, we will have your information as well on a slide, so viewers can jot it down there as well. Again, thank you, Assemblywoman, for joining us today, and thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please, if you haven't registered to vote, the primary is June 22nd. Have your plan to come out. You could do early voting, you could do absentee voting. There is no excuse not to vote. Again, thank you for joining us, Assemblywoman, and we will certainly keep an eye out on your campaign. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.